What's going on YouTube? It's your boy King of the Diamonds and I'm back for another Nioh 2 video. Today I'll be continuing with my weapon guide series. So I hope you all enjoy. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe. On the way to 800 subs, trying to hit 1K. So I appreciate everybody who's subbed, everybody who's enjoying the videos. Um, Stay tuned for more content. So I'm going to get right into the video. Today we'll be doing the Switchglaive. Now the Switchglaive is possibly one of my favorite weapons on the game. It was actually the very first weapon I started out with. When I first got Nioh, I started with the Switchglaive and the dual swords, and I ended up, going through the entire main story. The first region, I think, Dream of the Samurai, I ended up using the Switchglaive completely to go through. It might have been my easiest run through because of magic itself. That's what the Switchglaive scales with magic. So using magic was probably the most useful thing I could have picked, and it was my luckiest pick when I chose to use this weapon. But the Switchglaive is actually a very good weapon. It has a decent range. It doesn't hit very hard. In all honesty, it kind of hits, like, it slices through enemies without really staggering or bothering them. This weapon is very skill based. You have to be I wouldn't say advanced, but you have to be pretty good at stance switching. If you're not good at stance switching, you won't be able to take advantage of the Switchglaive to its fullest effect, um, because the Switchglaive's active skills deal with stance switching. You have to be able to stance switch and be a bit more skillful on the sticks when using the Switchglaive. So um, once you get the stance switching down and you learn how to combo, the Switchglaive will be a very powerful weapon. It definitely can do a lot of damage. It does, like I said, slice through opponents and kind of doesn't stagger them most of the time. Like with yokai, for example, yokai will definitely tank through the hits of a Switchglaive, so you have to be very smart when using it. Human enemies might not, get staggered. Some will, depending on how low you have their key. But it's still a very good weapon. I would definitely recommend using it as a first-time player, especially if you want to get through the game easier. Because again, like I said, it scales with magic, and magic is possibly one of the most useful things in this game to use. It helped me through so many difficult situations. So I would definitely recommend going for the Switchglaive if you are looking for a weapon to use. But on to the actives. So again, same with every single weapon in the game. You standard start off with these four open, and you have to choose between the four you want to go with. So we'll go over these. We got Focus Retribution, the Path of Three, Transient Blade, and Just Reprisal. So what we're gonna go with first is, I would actually go with Path of Three. And the reason why I would go with Path of Three is not to use this skill, because this skill, you can use it in combat, sure, but for my playstyle, I don't really use this skill much, because for one, once you hold down triangle, you're pretty much stuck in that animation. You could probably do like maybe like a burst counter or a yokai shift burst counter out of it to stop mid combo, but more than likely you're going to be stuck in this animation completely through. And if an enemy moves out of the way, or if you're fighting a yokai, he'll probably hit you in between doing this attack. So I usually just get this one first to open up the path for these three skills. Now these three skills are going to be your main focuses on this weapon. The reason why is because you can see, as it says, switch stance. Every single one of these switch stance skills is going to be very, like, you're going to be using mainly in your combat. So you open up Path of Three to gain access to these. Now I think immediately when you get your first skill, you won't have access to these until you complete certain level of dojo missions. So before I get these, I'll just focus on open the path of these three, and then we'll go ahead and move on to this. So the first one I would definitely go for is Path of Three. The next one, Focus Retribution, because you want to Get rid of that. Focus retribution because you want to open up the path of these right here. Okay. Focus retribution opens up the path for empty retribution, which is possibly one of the best active skills on the Switchglaive. It's very good. It does a lot of damage. It does a lot of damage. It covers a lot of ground, and it's very easy to combo into. So definitely open up focus retribution so you can work your way up to empty retribution. Okay. The next one on this side is infinite retribution. Infinite retribution is very good. It's kind of akin to the water sword for dual swords, because as you can see, the move is pretty much stationary. You can hold that for as long as you have ki, so you can literally just continue with this twirl right here and keep on going. And then that extra slash, that extra twirl around the slash at the end, it does do a good amount of damage. I would say use this in the same situation that you would use water sword yokai. Do not use that. Do not use this technique against human enemies. It will not work. I've showed you in my last video when I did the dual swords that water sword is not very effective against humans, but it is very effective against yokai. So with this weapon, with this technique, you can definitely use it. I've used it, but I only use it whenever I'm fighting yokai. I never use it against human enemies because it's stationary, and human enemies can either get pushed out of your range or dodge, and you're just left wide open. So again, this move for yokai, this move is all around. You can use it for yokai, you can use it for humans, it does not matter. So we'll get to those after I open up the rest of these. So next one we're gonna go with is transient blade. The reason why is because we want to open up these skills down here. As you'll see it with the Switchglaive, the first 4 skills you have access to, you're pretty much going to get those to pretty much get access to the other actives that you're going to use on this weapon. So after you've gotten all 4 of these, I'll just grab this. Then you can start really, working towards getting your Switchglaive, to the best of its ability, basically maxing it out to the best of its ability. So once we've opened up all 4 of these, we're going to go right over here to our switch stances. Okay, so switch stance retribution is the stance when you switch into high stance. So if you're doing a combo attack and you press R1 and triangle at the same time, you'll do this little slash where you turn the Switchglaive into scythe mode, and it'll put you in high stance. Okay, that's the one thing that's really cool with the Switchglaive, is that when you switch stance, usually with weapons, you're just switching stances between high, medium, and low, high, mid, and low. So most of the time, every single weapon is just the same. It doesn't really do anything. It just makes you switch stances. With the Switchglaive, whenever you switch stances and you have these 3 active skills active, your stance switches are attacks. So basically, whenever you're switching stances in between, they're attacks. Like you can literally do infinite combos with the Switchglaive if you're very good at ki management. Like you can combo switch stance retribution into high stance, combo again. You can go down to low stance where they have this little dash attack right here. Now you're in low stance, and then you switch to mid stance. Like this weapon focuses very heavily on stance switching. So if you're not very good at your stance switching, I wouldn't recommend using this weapon. The reason why is because you want to do that. You want to stance switch, and these right here are the reason why. Because of its mystic arts. This mystic art right here, Wildfire Flux, it increases your attack power by 1 level whenever you use switch stance retribution, edge, or blade, which is literally these. So whenever you stance switch, you get an attack power boost, and you can stack that up to 5 times. And then as you can see, it says hold to unleash a devastating strike upon your enemy. Right there, that lets you know that this weapon focus heavily on stance switching. Same with this active skill. It reduces your ki by one whenever your ki consumption by one level whenever you use stance switching, and then you can unleash another devastating attack. You can literally have both of these active with Switchglaive, Mystic Dyad, and your Switchglaive will be doing a really crazy amount of damage, especially if you have your build made out for it to do so. So now you understand how heavily this weapon focuses on stance switching. You need to learn how to stance switch if you want to use this weapon. So we're going to go ahead and grab all three of these, and that'll open up the paths to get closer to those. So for now, we're just going to get those, and then we're going to move on to the other places. So the next place we want to work towards is definitely Empty Retribution. No question. Empty Retribution is by far one of the strongest techniques that the Switchglaive has to offer. The reason why is, like I said, this move right here, if you put your damage bonus, your damage boost, and whatever highest stat you have on this move, you can literally like obliterate enemies with this move alone, just because of how powerful it is. It literally goes through guard. It doesn't see guard pretty much. Like if a human is guarding, you'll pretty much shred that guard. You're gonna go right through it because this technique isn't stopped. The momentum of this technique does not stop unless you're hit by maybe a yokai or something, or if the human enemy charges you. But other than and does like an unblockable attack. But other than that, this technique will eat through an enemy's guard. This is very good. I will recommend putting this on as soon as you possibly can. Next, we'll go up to this just so I can show you, just like I did with Water Sword, how this works against yokai and how it works against human enemies. These you do not have to worry. This you don't have to worry about. You can definitely use this skill for sure. I've actually seen it be used. I think it's really good too. Like it helps you get behind the enemy. It's in a sense the same as the dual dragon on the dual swords. It's pretty much a vault. Like you pretty much slice downward and vault yourself over the enemy. It's very good. You can definitely combo into it. I don't use it as much. The reason why is because of Empty Retribution. As you can see, this is L1 and square, and it takes up the same slot as Empty Retribution. So in my opinion, Empty Retribution is much more useful than this one is. So that's what I think, but this is still a very useful skill. It's not bad at all. So if you want to throw it into your repertoire, by all means do that. I would just go with Empty Retribution, just because of the overall damage it puts out, the utility it has with like eating through guards, all that stuff. So you can definitely use it, but Empty Retribution is my go-to. Again, with this, you can definitely use this. It's not bad at all. I would recommend maybe something else. The reason why is because, again, this is a very stationary move. You can pull this off on like lower level enemies, like enemies that are not wearing armor, or like lower level yokai and stuff. It'll work decently well, but in higher level content, you're gonna want to not stand still as much as possible. The reason why is because enemies hit so ridiculously hard that if you're caught standing still doing this move right here, you'll probably take a lot of damage because you're left wide open. Now, there are ways to get out of certain animations, such as using yokai abilities or burst countering and stuff like that. But unless you're very skilled at combat in this game, I would stay away from using a technique like this unless you're fighting, like I said, lower level enemies. You're not taking on anybody who's like wearing heavy armor, or a little higher level. But it's not a bad technique at all. It's good enough to use in combat, especially if you can work it in. But yeah, we'll get to that when I show you my setup and everything. Celestial Retribution. This is actually a grapple pretty much. It's really good. Looks really cool. It doesn't really serve much of a purpose other than just like grapple. So I wouldn't say like this is a must-use skill. Not really. Like I said, this is literally it. It does nothing else. It's pretty much a grapple. So you can get this if you want. It's not bad, but it's not great. So that right there is personal preference. But mainly I usually open up these paths just to get to empty, and then I open up these paths just to get to infinite. So these two are the main ones that I want to get to whenever I'm opening up these paths. But the other skills in the path you can definitely use. There's no problem using them. They're all good skills, just very situational. Now next, we're going to go to Merciful Retribution. The reason why we're going to go to Merciful Retribution is because we want to open up the paths up here. So Merciful Retribution, we'll get that. Um, Again, this is a very stationary move. As you can see, that's the technique right there. If you want to work it into your combat, by all means you can. Me personally, I'm not a fan. The reason why, again, is because it's stationary. You can be left wide open, and unless you have some anima to spare and you throw out a yokai ability, or if you want to just burst counter and cancel the animation, then you can do that. But personally, I don't use this technique. Like, it's not, again, every technique on the game is not bad. That, like, there are certain techniques that, okay, that are very bad, but that's very rare, and it's usually one or two in a set, in a weapon set. Other than that, this technique is not that bad. It's still an attack. It has good distance, and it would be useful against one enemy maybe. So I would definitely make sure that you really want to use this technique before equipping it over anything else. Next, we're going to go with Kibosh Kicker. Now, Kibosh Kicker, this move is pretty much like a, how do I say it? This would be more of a quick reaction move. The reason why is because this move doesn't really come in. This move isn't really effective unless the enemy is out of key. So if you've gotten your enemy out of key and you press triangle at the end of your combo while you're in low stance, you'll pull off this technique right here, and it looks really cool. It does a good amount of damage. It's pretty much it pretty much counts as a grapple. So if you do have like a meta clan, you most likely will do increased damage on this technique. It's very good, especially when you switch into low stance and say you have your wildfire flux or your tempest flux active. This will help this technique do a lot more damage. It's very good, very flashy. I like it, and you can definitely work it into your combos for sure. Next, we're gonna go with Skyward Blade. That way we can just open up Whirlwind Blade. Whirlwind Blade is very good. I'm not gonna say that I've used this technique so many times. It's awesome. You gotta put it on, but it's very good because, as you can see, it can literally deflect anything. You can deflect arrows. You can deflect cannonballs. I think you can even deflect the aberrant soldier, the little flame fist they shoot out at you. I think you can even deflect those. Like, this move is very good. Especially if you're like being annoyed by like a long range enemy, because I know everybody is running to that problem. I've run into that problem so many times where maybe I'm doing a scroll mission, or if I'm even doing a regular mission and I get spotted by the enemy, and I got someone with a sniper with the arrow, or an archer with the arrow shooting at me from a distance, and I can't figure out where he's coming from, and I've died because of it. Like, literally, I fought enemies and got killed by a guy with an arrow a lot. It was probably the most annoying thing ever. But this move right here will help with that. So say you got somebody shooting at you with an arrow, Whirlwind Blade, boom, deflect it right back at them, get back into combat, you'll be fine. But just be careful with fighting multiple enemies in general, but definitely with multiple enemies with moves that are stationary, that do not move, because again, this move is very stationary, but it is one of the few very good stationary moves. Very good. So if you can definitely work this in, by all means do so. But yeah, definitely get this on your get this in there, see if it works out for you, and I'm pretty sure it'll help you. Next, we're gonna go with Calamitous Blade. The reason why is because this move is very good at breaking the horns on yokai, which I've used it for a lot. As you can see, it dashes up, pushes the Switchglaive up, and then slices down. So you'll basically, like I said, do very good damage, and you'll break the horns on yokai. Very useful. I've definitely used this a lot to break the horns on yokai. So Calamitous Blade, definitely a go-to. And now lightning blade is very cool. I've never found use for it. I've seen that it is good. I've used it. I've not used it. I've seen that it is good, and I've seen it be used to break horns on yokai, just to do like pretty to combo out of and all that stuff. It's very flashy, like you can see, like it looks really cool. But in terms of like usefulness, I haven't found much use for it. The reason why is because it's like it's almost like a counter. So um, I really, don't find too much use for it in my fighting style, but you may. But personally, Calamitous Blade is better in my opinion, just because it's a outright active. So like you can just do this instead of having the enemy, have to attack you. Next, just so we can get this. No, 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 no. This is what I was looking for. All right, so these right here again, with most of the skills that go in this part, in this side of the tree, they're pretty much counters and stuff like that. um, this right here, if you hold L1 and square, you just pretty much like bring rubble up and slice forward. It's not the best. I don't think it does really much damage. I don't really use these techniques at all. If anything, I'll use like fleeting edge, which you can get from I think Mumyo. If you fight her, she'll drop the skill, and you can use this. I'll use this, but more than likely, I don't really use much of these. I definitely don't use this because, like I said, I'm not really good at counters, so this is not something I use. I might use this. The reason why is because it's like a key breaker or like a guard break. So like if you use it, you might be able to break the key on the enemy. It just depends on how low the key of that enemy is. So I'll just grab that. Cool. Next, we're going to go with thin air. Thin air is just like the sword technique. I can't think of it right now. What is it? Oh man, it's the technique you get from Azai. I can't think of it, but it's the same. It looks exactly the same. You pretty much dash forward from a distance, and it's a good finisher. You can definitely finish your enemy off with this move. Um, so I would definitely go for it. It's very good, and it covers a lot of distance. It's not one of those stationary moves, so you can definitely close the distance with doing this move. Boom, throw out a yokai ability or something to reset yourself and be able to combo immediately back in. And it is, if you don't know, this is actually considered a sheath active skill. If you can tell by looking at the skill itself, and you see where it says skill type and goes up to active, you can see the first one is sheath and the second one is a charge attack. So this is technically considered a sheath active skill. So say for some odd reason, I don't know why you would, but for some reason you're running Fusanushi and you have a Switchglaive equipped, Fusanushi will actually give that Switchglaive, that extra 40% sheath active skill damage. So that is something that can be done, but wouldn't recommend doing. Next, we're going to move up to Cyclone. Now, Cyclone is one of the new skills that came out in the newest DLC. This move is devastating, as you can see. It's very flashy. It looks amazing. I love it. You can do it out of high or mid stance. This moves looks it's just amazing. Like look at it. Look at this. Oh my god, it looks so devastating. It's beautiful. I love that. But yes, Cyclone, empty retribution, the stance switches. These are going to be the main moves that you're going to use, or that I use myself. But I feel like you're going to use them as well, just because of how well they combo into combat. Like just because of how good they are in combat. So definitely work your way up to Cyclone. But that right there would be all of the techniques. Again, the Switchglaive doesn't have many techniques that you can just use. It doesn't have like, it's not like the sword that like, or like the Kusarigama or stuff like that have like just so many techniques. Pretty much you're gonna use you're pretty much not even gonna use most of these. The reason why is because you're just gonna use them to open up the paths to other techniques. You can definitely use every skill. I've said it all the time. Every skill in this game is useful. There are no skills that are not useful. There are some skills that may not be useful to you, but every skill is useful. Now, like I said, there are some skills that you'll probably never use ever. You'll be like, "Oh, this skill is useless." It's not, because there is someone out there who can find use for it. That's why I say every skill is useful. Just it may not be useful to you, but it's definitely useful. It wouldn't be in the game if it wasn't useful. There's someone out there who's going to find a way to make that technique fit into their fighting style. So it's all about personal preference. But the ones that I've chosen are the ones that I've used and the ones that I've actually, like tried using, and they've worked for me. So any of the skills I choose, it's pretty much because they've worked or to open up paths for the other skills that have worked for me. You see, I haven't gotten this. The reason why is because it only increases the amount of anima you gain, and I don't need that. The reason why is because I have so much anima gain just from my sets and my stats and everything I put together. I don't need this, so I don't use it. It's not very useful for me, but again, it might be useful for someone else. I put on these mystic arts, boom. But yeah, everything else is pretty much the passive. So we're gonna put our passives on, our passes to the afterlife. We'll throw on our, where is it, shadow strike, of course. We want to put our armor piercer on, relentless. Anything else? Nope, that is it. So yeah, that's pretty much everything. Again, if you want to copy this down, by all means copy it down, pause video, screenshot it, do what you got to do. I'll jump into showing you guys how I set up my skills, how I use them and stuff, and I'll also show you the difference between empty retribution versus humans and yokai. Again, I say it's like water sword. Water sword is very situational, mainly used for yokai. Humans, it doesn't work really well against. Same with empty retribution, doesn't work well against humans really, and is very good against yokai. So yeah, let's move on to the other part. Now, I'm gonna run over here to Switchglaive. Boom. Thin air is already on. Keep that. Grapple is grapple. There's nothing else you can put right there. Sneak attack, nothing else you can put right there. With this, I'm going to put wildfire flux on because it gives me the attack boost. I could use this for key consumption, but I'm cool. All right, now we get on to our regular skills. In combo, cyclone, every time. Mortal retribution, no. Cyclone, every time, no questions. All right, so here you're gonna have to put this there. Switch stance edge has to go there. Switch stance blade has to go there because if you, as you can see, this is the when you switch in the low stance. This is the actual low stance active skill. This is the mid stance active skill. So you cannot change these. These have to stay as they are. This right here, we're gonna definitely go empty retribution for sure. We don't want to go either one of these. I mean, you can use them. I don't use them. I try not to use them, honestly. They don't really seem to do much for me. Empty retribution for sure. I mean, sorry, infinite retribution. Empty retribution for this. You can go divine retribution. I would go empty just because of how much more powerful it is, in my opinion. You can go path of 3. You can go focus, retribution, or merciful. Truthfully, I would go with focused. The reason why is because it is a charge up time, but when an enemy is in 0 key, they're pretty much stunned for a quick second. So throwing that out would do a lot of damage. Path of 3 is pretty good, doesn't do as much damage as these do, but I'll just go with focused. Celestial, got to keep that right there anyway. That's the only one that goes. Mind's Eye, no. Cyclone, I don't care about Mind's Eye. You can use this technique, it's fine. It's fine. Cyclone is the go-to. I don't care. Anytime you can put Cyclone on, you put that on because it's just that good of a technique. Again, cannot change these. These have to stay. I did not talk about Windswept, and I'm sorry. Windswept you get from fighting Imagawa. I think you get this move from fighting Imagawa. He drops this technique, so if you farm him, you'll get this technique. This is very good. It covers a lot of distance. If you're fighting multiple enemies, you'll be able to hit each one of those enemies. Like more than likely, you should stay away from any engagements that require you to fight more than 2 enemies, because at that point you're definitely going to get overwhelmed and somebody's going to kill you. So 2 enemies is the max you should be fighting. Um, if anything, try to turn them into one-on-one situations as quickly as possible. Because in this game, if you're fighting multiple enemies, it's not like Ninja Gaiden where you can just, you know, obliterate multiple enemies at a time. This game, they mainly want you to focus on one-on-one battles. But this move is very good for fighting multiple enemies because it has a wide range and it attacks in a circle, in a 360 degree circle. So very, very good. I would definitely try to get this as soon as you can, and equip it right there. Blinding Edge, this has to stay there just because it's the only one that goes there. Fleeting Edge can stay there. Fleeting Edge is actually really good. You get that, like, again, you get this from Mumio. It's very good. It does a lot of damage. As you can see, it's not stationary. It makes you go in a circle around your enemy, and very good to combo into. Much better than Path 3. Here, Kibosh Kicker. You can go Transient Blade for sure. It feels more like it feels more like the technique from the sword where you kind of just create distance and back yourself up. Doesn't seem to have much, you know, use to me. So I go with Kibosh Kicker. Again, you cannot change these, so these have to stay the same. Here, we'll go with Calamitous Blade. Reason why, again, breaks the horns on yokai, very good. You can go Whirlwind Blade or Skyward Blade. Either one, doesn't really matter. I'm not really going to change it because I'm probably not going to use that technique as much. And then Path of 3, the only one I can go there. So again, these are all the techniques and which locations I would put them in. You can, you know, slow the video down, check them out, see how I put them. As for the little extra skills on the side like these, you can do whatever you want. Those don't really have much you can do towards like, they don't have really like a set area to go in. Those are all personal preference, so I can't really tell you what to put and where to put it. But yeah, those are the techniques. So I'm gonna jump into some fights and show you all how I use these techniques. But again, remember, with this weapon, stance switching is necessary. You need to know how to stance switch. You need to learn how to stance switch. It's going to help you maximize the potential of this weapon as much as possible. Okay. Alright, cool. Let's get it. Alright. But yeah, let's go. As you can see, I built up my 5 stacks. And now I can actually unleash that technique. Boom. And that's how the technique looks when you unleash it. It does a lot of damage. It pushes them back and it even destroys their ki. And that's it. As you can see, I even killed him faster with this weapon than I have with other weapons. And I haven't done anything different. I still have the same stats. Nothing's changed. Literally trash weapon. Like, the thing, yeah, like, it's crazy. Like, this weapon will do a lot of damage. And as you can see, it doesn't even take that much to fill up the Wildfire Flux stacks. You can do that easily. Just stance switch about 5 times between low, mid, and high, and you'll be good. Like, it's perfectly fine. But now I'm gonna show. I showed you the empty retribution. Now I'm going to show you infinite retribution and why it's not useful against human enemies. Right, look at that. Look at that. I was stuck. I literally got stuck and I couldn't do anything about it. That move does not work well against human enemies. Watch again. Look, he's already out of my range. I got to hit him maybe about 2 times. Not good enough. Not good enough to use against human enemies. But then if you throw out anti-retribution, look at it, travels. It travels towards the enemy. You can stand switch into anything. It's that's how good this weapon is. Like, the stand switching aspect of the weapon is crazy. Now, with Flux and Flux 2, you cannot Flux 2 into stand switching with this weapon. Like, you cannot stand switch into Flux 2 with Flux 2. Flux 2 is not going to help you stand switch. You can only do that with just regular Flux 1 stand switching, and that's it. It's not going to work. So make sure you take that into account. Like, so for example, I just did that once. I did it once, but if I try to do Flux 2, so if I try to do Flux 2, boom, I can't do it. As you saw, I went from, so I'm gonna go in high stance, I'm gonna switch to low stance. Okay, so high stance, I can't do it out of Flux 2, but I can do it out of Flux 1, obviously, because boom, there we go. All right, so now we'll fight the yokai, and I'll show you exactly what I mean with, look at that, boom, broke his horn, and now watch. Oh yeah, I did the wrong one. But infinite retribution is much easier to do on yokai. Because you got more hits in. Unfortunately, I did push him out of the way. It's because, I guess it's because he's a lower level yokai, so it doesn't, it's probably gonna push him out of the way. But on bigger yokai, that technique is insane. If I was to do infinite retribution on maybe like a Gozuki or a Mezuki, I would pretty much shred them. I didn't even do that technique. That's gonna kill him. Yeah. But yeah, as you can see, Switchglaive is very good. Combos are very stylized, very stylistic. Um, you can literally do combos out of anything. Like, boom, boom. Like, you can do combos into any stance. It's like awesome. Like everything, you can literally combo into anything. Is a great weapon. You just got to be more fluid with your stance switching. I'm gonna try to get off a kibosh kicker, see if I can get that going. Let's go. Haha, I got it. Let me see if I can get off that cyclone. Ah, there we go. Try one more time. Because that cyclone extra hit does like a ridiculous amount of damage. Get up! Ah. There it is. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. But yeah, that's it, guys. That's the Switchglaive. Very good weapon. I would recommend using it, especially for beginners, just because it scales with magic. Magic will help you get through the main game so much faster, so much easier. I've definitely gone through the main game multiple times with different weapons, and I can honestly say that using the Switchglaive or the Split Staff, both of which scale with magic, um, made me go through the game a lot easier than using, just regular base weapons that don't scale with magic. But yeah, thanks guys for stopping by. I appreciate you all showing me support. I appreciate you guys stopping and subbing to the channel. Thank you so much. Again, we're on the road to 800. Trying to get 1,000 soon, so hopefully we hit that soon. Thank you guys again. Remember, like, comment, subscribe. It's King Red Diamonds. I'm out.